How much are they paying you to forget about your dreams? That comfortability of a paycheck might be the only thing holding you back from the abundance that you deserve. Look, I fired my job April 1st, 2016 without any backup plan and without even making a dollar for myself as an entrepreneur. And it worked out for me. I bet on myself, put all chips in on me, and I built a 7-figure online business. Now, I'm not telling you to go and fire your job like I did because I'm a little kooky in the head. I believe in myself. But what I am telling you is that your comfort zone may be the one thing that's really holding you back in everything that you claim that you actually want to do. And it's only going to take me about 5 minutes to break this down. So if you don't have 5 minutes to spare, then you just may end up being another victim of the 40-40-40 scam. You know, work 40 hours a week for 40 years of your life to retire for 40% of your income. When you know that there's something that is actually calling you that you can't ignore each and every single day. So if you just want to stay stuck in that 40-40-40 scam, feel free to click off this video. But look, the whole reason why I'm making this video is because there's somebody in my community, Earl, by the way, shout out to you, Earl, if you happen to be watching this, and just know that you inspired this whole video. Recently, me and Earl were having a conversation, and he said that he had been procrastinating on certain things, and he admitted that it was because he had a paycheck coming in. And because he has a quote unquote good job, he was getting distracted from what it is that he actually wants to do. I'm like, man, don't let them pay you just enough to forget about your goals, your dreams, your aspirations. And this is a big lie and a big danger zone that a lot of people are getting caught in, because this whole comfort lie, man, it's holding so many people back in any endeavor that they want to do in life, especially in the entrepreneur and business lanes. So look, most people, they don't quit their dreams, they lease them out for stability. So I'm not saying that a paycheck is evil, and I'm not saying that comfort is evil, but comfort is definitely expensive, especially once you understand the opportunity costs that come with it. So most people aren't stuck, they're just comfortable. So you get paid just enough to pay your rent, to eat, to feel safe, to delay risk. And most importantly, you get paid just enough to forget what it is that you actually want to do. But you never get paid enough to build actual freedom. So I'm not saying that this is any type of oppression, but this is sedation. Most people are just like a tiger that gets petted. Have you ever seen how people go to different countries and whatnot? Or they may go to Indonesia and they have all these pictures and photos of them with these dangerous tigers. But have you ever took the time to look in the tiger's eyes? Those tigers are sedated. Those tigers have been sedated, have been put in an environment of comfort to whereas they don't have to hunt as the natural hunters that they are. They get fed each and every single day, and they get doped up to whereas all the aggression of the tiger is just gone. It's kind of like they forgot who and what they actually are. That's sedation. And so many people that are ambitious have been sedated by getting a paycheck. Now, a lot of these people also, which somebody just had recently said in my comments, which brought this front of mind to me, they'll call somebody that bets on themselves and goes for their dreams, goals, and aspirations to build their impact, income, and influence, and build their personal brands and build their digital products. They'll call that person a sellout. But here's the real definition of a sellout. So think about it. These people will call successful entrepreneurs sellouts because they monetize their brand. But they'll spend at least 40 hours a week to do something that they don't even believe in. They'll wake up at a time that they don't want to wake up, to go to a place that they don't want to go to work a job that they hate, to follow bosses that they don't respect, to sell products and services that they don't believe in, and to smile in meetings that they don't care about. And why do they do all this stuff? They do it all for money. And not even a lot of money. They do it for just a little bit of money. And that's the irony in all this stuff. And actually, I don't know if ironic is the proper word for this because I actually find it quite funny and actually hilarious. But they'll call somebody who monetizes their passion a sellout. But if you think of the definition of what a sellout actually is that you're doing something only for money. When the really successful entrepreneurs, they found a mixture to where they can make something that they're passionate about and figure out a way to make money with it by isolating a problem in the marketplace that somebody else is willing to pay for the solution for. But somebody else that is a victim of the 40-40-40 scam and is only doing it for a little bit of money, only for enough to put their nose above water and just get a little bit of air, they'll call that person a sellout. So don't put your dreams on back hold because you're worrying about the opinions of others who are living a life that they literally don't look forward to each and every single day and are looking for an escape of 48 hours over the weekend and really 24 hours because they spend a lot of their mind frame on Sunday mentally preparing to go into another work week of doing something that they absolutely despise. That's not the life for me. That's not the life for you, or you wouldn't be watching this video right now. So look, earlier in this video, I talked about the opportunity cost of comfort. And this is where it really breaks it down. And once you see this, or once I actually calculated this, I was like, man, I got to make a change. So most people, they typically work at least 40 hours a week. And I say at least because a lot of people work overtime. I remember when I used to work for a car rental company, the worst that it got for me was that I was working 60 hours a week. I remember a 2-week span where I didn't even have a lunch break. I'll be exhausted. And then when I realized that, okay, I'm putting all my time into this business. Actually, it was Enterprise Rent-A-Car. If you don't know anything about Enterprise Rent-A-Car, a family called the Taylor family own Enterprise Rent-A-Car. It's not a publicly traded company. I don't know what the numbers and statistics are now, but back when I was working there in 2013 and 2014, they would have been in the Fortune 500 if they were a publicly traded company. But it's a privately owned company by this family called the Taylor family. I can't remember the guy's name, but he left it to all his children and whatnot. I'm like, I'm building the Taylor's family dream instead of my own. And yeah, I'm getting paid enough just to pay my rent. But in the hours that I'm saying that I need to be working on my business, I'm exhausted because I'm working so hard that I would literally pass out on the couch each and every single night. And I was working hard. And if you haven't realized by now, hard work doesn't pay. Just look at all the hard workers out there. They're entirely overworked and underpaid. And in actuality, I can't even say that they're underpaid because money is simply just a symbol that value has been exchanged. So if I think about it, I may have been properly being paid for the amount of value that I was bringing to the company. But that's a topic for another video. But most people work at least 40 hours per week for at least 5 days per week, right? So if you calculate that, that's going to be 50 weeks in a year. I know there's 52 weeks in a year, but most people typically get 2 weeks vacation, except for when I worked at Enterprise, because they didn't give you vacation until you had been working there an entire year. And that's why I worked there for exactly 365 days. And that's when I quit because they owed me 2 weeks vacation. And I went, enjoyed my life, and I went to see Kobe Bryant play in person. Those were a good two weeks of my life before I started working at the bank. But if you calculate this also, that's 10 years. So that's going to be 20,000 hours. What would happen if you just put a minimum amount of effort and if you just put a minimum amount of time into yourself? What if you only spent 5 of those hours per week into building something that you actually own and built a true digital asset. Now, when I'm talking about a digital asset, this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about building something like a solid YouTube channel as distribution. If you didn't realize, YouTube is the biggest streaming platform on the planet, period. It's bigger than Netflix. It's bigger than Hulu. It's bigger than Amazon Prime, HBO Max, Peacock, all of them. That's one of the reasons why Netflix, if you haven't noticed, Netflix has done a partnership with this huge media conglomerate called iHeartMedia. And iHeartMedia has a lot of podcasts up under their umbrella, a lot of popular podcasts. Well, if you haven't noticed here recently, a lot of these popular podcasts are streaming only on Netflix. Why? Because Netflix is trying to compete with YouTube. And YouTube is the second biggest search engine on the planet behind Google because Google owns YouTube. So if you just flip what you're doing right now and start producing more content than you consume on YouTube, it can start to become a digital asset for you. I don't even have the biggest YouTube channel yet, but on a monthly basis, just the amount of money that I make from AdSense, just off of views, is enough to... I used to be in real estate. I get paid more from my small micro niche YouTube channel than a few rental houses per month. That's insane. Just to sit down here for about 5 minutes and talk. And I'm not even talking about the business on the back end of it. But this is a true digital asset, and YouTube is the only long-term evergreen platform as well, so it compounds over time. So it can help me build my influence, which will help me have a bigger impact, which will help me have greater income all at once over time. So I have little mini versions of Aston CEO, just helping to build my digital empire every single day, on the hour, every hour. Now, once you attach something like a digital product to your YouTube distribution system, well, now you have leverage. And then if you're thinking of having monthly recurring income coming in on a monthly basis, because I really think a lot of people, they should focus on building new lows instead of reaching new highs. So what I mean by this is this: the most money that I've made in a single month along my entrepreneurial journey is a little over $200,000. 6-figure month. Oh, but guess what? At the first of the month, I had to start over at zero. And at times they can be exhausting. And even outside of it being exhausting or having certain levels of anxiety kicking in, as a full-time entrepreneur, it can be hard to plan and schedule your life. I know in years past, friends of mine that have 9-to-5 jobs. One of my best friends is a fireman. He knows that I travel frequently, so he was like, "Hey man, next time you go on a trip, let me know. Let's schedule something, do a trip together." I was like, "Bro, my lifestyle, I don't schedule trips." Because he was wanting to know when he could take off for work. I'm like, "Yeah, just give me a couple months notice." I was like, man, if I go out of town, I just bought the ticket like 2 days before I go out of town. That was the life that I was living years ago, right? Because I didn't know what my income would be looking like month to month, and that can get stressful. That's one of the reasons why people feel so comfortable in a job. I get it. But if you have something like monthly recurring income coming in, well, now you're building new lows instead of new highs. So you know, no matter what happens at the first of the month, you're at least going to start off on this level. So you're going to start a new plateau. This is the new low. Then you build. This is the new low. Then you build. This is the new low. And if you have a model of monthly recurring income or monthly recurring revenue, that can be some of that stability and comfort that people are looking for in the 9-to-5 job workplace. Because you know, no matter what, you're at least going to fall here instead of bottoming out, right? So if you add something like a community as recurring income, now you have a solid business. Something that somebody told me a while ago when I was in Dubai, it really had a real impact on me. And he was like, if you don't have monthly recurring revenue, then you don't have a business. You just have a hustle. I was like, oh, I get it. And then when I look at any other business, not only online businesses or these education, info, digital product businesses and whatnot, just anything that I spend my money on, period. I'm like, most of these companies and businesses, they know what the lifetime value is of their customer. And I'm like, I don't. So if you can understand what your lifetime of value is of a customer, then you'll be able to schedule and live a life way different than 99% of the population. Now, something that you really need to understand is identity versus outcome. So look, a lot of times the problem isn't your job. It's that you stopped identifying as the creator that you truly are. So most people, they don't take action because they no longer see themselves as a creator. They see themselves as an employee, and then they outsource ambition from others. So there's two types of identities that I like to classify people as. So for one, you have your bricklayer, and then here you have the architect. Now, the bricklayer gets paid per brick, and they follow someone else's blueprint. Think about it. A bricklayer, they get the blueprint, they follow the blueprint, they lay the bricks to build the building. But they don't own the building. And then when there's no more bricks to get laid, when they stop getting paid when the bricks stop. When the building's built, they're done. Now, that's most people that just have the employee mindset. Now, I'm not saying that there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying that classifies them as a bricklayer. Because most employees, they're not bad people, and most people, they're actually not lazy. Like I said, most people that have a 9-to-5 job, they work extremely hard. And even if it's a job that is technically an easy job, just sitting in a place that you don't want to be for extended periods of your life. Think about that, of your life. I realized this when my last job, when I fired my job working at the bank, I'm like, man, I'm literally selling this company my life for a fee. I was like, my life is worth more than this. But like I said, most people, they're not lazy either. But they're just operating inside someone else's design. And they're working hard, but they're building someone else's vision. All right, now, an architect, what we want to be as a creator, and one of my favorite words is architect. I describe myself as an architect because an architect is simply just a designer. And if we're all creators, then what is a creator? A designer. And here on planet Earth, we are the ultimate creators on planet Earth. We're the ultimate designers, right? God is the ultimate designer, but he left us here with everything on earth that we need to create whatever it is that we want. We have a tree. We have to use our imagination to envision the boat, but we can architect and design the ship. You get me? You picking up what I'm dropping? So look, as an architect, we design the blueprint, we own the vision, and we get paid for leverage. So we make money from the structure, not just the labor. That's the difference between the architect and the bricklayer. So in the online business world, our blueprints that we design, this could be our digital products. Our structures could be our YouTube channels that we're using as distribution and leverage to build our income, impact, and influence online. Our leverage can be our audience that we build from that channel. Our building can be our system, and system, SYSTEM, stands for saving yourself time, energy, and money. To where you create a system around all this stuff, and the system works for you 24/7, 365, and that's how you get your time back, and that's how you actually can make more while working less. I know I recently went back home not too long ago, and somebody that I grew up with, you could tell he had some jealousy and envy from the lifestyle that he accepts versus the lifestyle that I designed and created for myself. He's like, oh man, you don't know a hard day. You never seen a hard day's work. Which if he looks at our histories, I was like, I always worked harder than him. I was an athlete, got a Division I scholarship for basketball, went to the gym every day, made 1,000 shots per day, Dean's List college, job, working 60 hours a week, fired him, banker, built a business, whatever it was going on in this guy's head. But what he didn't realize, and what most people don't realize, is that the hardest work that most people avoid is thinking. So they just accept life for what it is, and then they work hard at whatever it is that people present to them. All right, so he views him working hard because he works in a factory. But the system that I had created for myself, it doesn't take much hard work as far as physical output, but it does take some time for you to just sit and think, see it, and take it from here, pull it from the ethos, and then create it, right? So most people, just like this guy that told me I never seen a hard day's work, a day in my life, he sees money as a unit of something that he can spend per hour of his life. Like I said, deep down, subconsciously, this is what he's thinking. But he's really just thinking, I work this amount of hours, I get this many dollars. There's a cap to it, right? There's in no way possible could he ever make more money. No matter how much more overtime he works at this factory, he cannot make more money. Why? Because money is an abundant resource, but your time is an infinite resource. So you cannot get something of abundance if you're using a limited resource to it. Whereas if you create a system for yourself that's literally working 24/7, 365 nonstop, your income potential is uncapped. Because there's no how long the system can work for you. My system literally puts in 24 hours a day. And there's no cap to how much income that you can make. And most people have no systems thinking at all. They don't use any of their brain power, creativity, strategy to craft a system for themselves that works nonstop. So if you're always, or if the only way that you can make $1 equates to your time, then you're never gonna live in abundance, just period. That's just the way that it is. So bricklayers get paid to build, but architects get paid because it gets built. And that's the difference right there. Now, a lot of people's real fear that they have is not a fear of something not working out or fear of failure. People's real fear is exposure. And a lot of times the fear of exposure is disguised as the fear of failure. But people don't realize that failing is the only way that you actually do learn how to do anything. Anything that you now learn how to do, or that you now do without second thought, just comes common nature to you. You failed a whole bunch of times to learn it. I like to look at fail as this. Fail stands for finding an individual lane. That's the only way that you find your individual lane for something that can work for you, is through failing through it. But a lot of people's real fear is the fear of exposure, not the fear of failure. And this is a deeper layer here. It's not comfort, it's fear. And the reason why I say fear of exposure is this, because if you try and you fail, you can't blame the system. You can't blame your boss. You can't blame the economy. So staying employed, it protects your ego. And a lot of things that we do as humans, it all comes down to our ego and wanting to protect this image that we have of ourselves, which most people have a self-limiting image of themselves. But we want to be able to point the finger at somebody else except for us, instead of taking ownership and saying this situation that I put myself in is my fault. We feel a lot more comfortable if we can point the finger at somebody else. Now, I'm not telling you to quit your job. I'm not saying that at all, but I am saying to start building while you still have it, just like all them that you see on the screen right now. And if you're ready to make more working less online from stuff that you already know, go ahead and click the link down in the description and join this Credit at the Top community. And I'll see you on our coaching call this Wednesday. But you have the power to create, accept it, and start making life happen for you instead of just letting life happen to you. And go ahead and check out this video right here for 3 Bible verses that completely changed my life, and I give them credit for me making my first $1 million online. It's Credit at the Top.